Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to episode 23 of Capes and Commentaries. I'm your co-host, Nathan Kennedy, here with Tyler Baker. And Tyler, we're heading back to Gotham for the first time in quite a while. And apologies that we didn't have an episode for you last weekend, but that was the only time I could go see Halloween, so we had to squeeze that in.
Yeah.
For this show Sunday. But we're here this week. We're going to be talking Bane, which I did some research, and apparently this is really the only episode that he is prominently featured in, which I thought was kind of surprising.
In the the first three seasons, yeah, where it's like Batman before they did like the whole revamp, and he's not featured in a whole lot of episodes in the I guess I call them like Gotham Knights series. It's the when they revamped and retold all the looks and stuff. Yeah, he's not in it as much. And he appears in the Superman animated series of one episode too.
It's just kind of funny because he's prominently featured on the box art and everything, but it's just like one and done here. And I thought that was kind of interesting because he's this is once again the only interpretation of the character I feel that they have gotten right. He's terrible in Batman and Robin, and some would argue his portrayal in the Nolan films. I feel like by now most people kind of have our opinions on that those movies to us don't really hold up. That they don't stand the test of time. But also, Tyler, did you see that Bane is going to be in that Gotham show?
Yeah, and it just continues to show. I'll never ever watch that Gotham show because I've never gotten my head around the idea of these shows where they want to do a superhero show where nobody looks like a superhero or a supervillain. It's just guys in civilian clothes, street clothes, and they deem themselves, I'm the Joker because I've just smeared lipstick on my face, and I'm a street level guy, and I'm causing chaos with no Batman in the city, and or something like that. I don't like the idea of those kinds of shows. That's why I'm not a fan of Smallville. I gave Smallville a chance. I just could not get into it.
Yeah.
And Gotham, I thought was a lame idea. I'm not interested in seeing a show about Batman's world without Batman in it and confronting the villains. I'm not compelled to watch a show based on Commissioner Gordon. He's just not as fascinating, I think, as people. I mean, there's a lot of like uncorrupted cops and characters in a lot of superhero shows or comic books, excuse me. So even though he's one of the first, I read or watch Batman for Batman. I don't read it for the cop. He's a good man. Like, I don't care. I want to watch superheroes and supervillains.
Right.
If I want to watch that, I can watch Miami Vice and watch good cops kicking butt and left and right. And it's just not interesting. Plus Donald Logue's in it and Jada Pinkett Smith. I'm like, that's just not good. But I know it has a fan base, but
kicking butt,
kicking ass.
There you go. Come on.
Yeah.
But I mean, you'll be happy to know that when I was reading the articles, it said 5th and final season. Yeah. So I guess that's finally coming to a close.
Yeah, I heard that this was going to be, but they're also doing an Alfred Pennyworth show too.
Why? Like what?
Because apparently the world must have a show about Batman's butler and they're trying to have characters, in his world too. I'm like, I just.
Yep. See, it's reaching that point. The superhero bubble it's gonna burst. It has to, because they're coming up with these stupid just ideas. Like, I don't want to see a show about Alfred. Like, that makes no sense to me. Like, yes, he is strictly kind of background. He's there to give advice. He's there to move the story along sometimes, but he does not need to be a central focus.
No, a lot just because they're a great side character or supporting cast member in a in-depth, very rich and detailed comic book mythology. Like, they don't want to have their own show. That's why I was never for a lot like S.H.I.E.L.D. having their own show. I'm like, dude, I've never ever as a child cared for Nick Fury or S.H.I.E.L.D. in general. They're the government agency of the Marvel Universe. And I knew what the show was going to be. It was guys walking around in suits and more civilians claiming to be superheroes without actually being superheroes. And they throw Ghost Rider in or something like that. And I don't think that was as well received or did as much for the show. But it's just, I'm sorry, I don't I have to have people in the suits. Comic book or superheroes and supervillains, that part of them is their visual look, and I'm not going to support anything that's just a guy in civilian clothes and a hoodie. He's a cool street level superhero because he wears a hoodie and he carries it over his head. He lurks and mopes in the back alleys and no, you guys don't get it at all. So I'm glad some people can find joy in it, but it's not for me.
Right.
But I will say this is by far like the animated series in terms of entertainment value has got Bane the best. They've done the best with him. They got his voice right, his look right in both this one and the retooled look.
The retooled look of Bane, I'm not, like most of them. You and I have talked about this before. I'm not a huge fan of that design.
I'm fine. I mean, I would pick this one over that one, but I do like the other one because I feel like he's still very sinister. It's not like it's. I mean, they maintain their same personality, so nothing changed there. Because I think the worst offender for me was the Joker because he didn't have as much color in his face. It was just white with lines, and I hated that as a kid. Oh man, it drove me nuts. I've since come around to appreciate it a lot more because the character is still there. Mark Hamill still delivers. The stories are great. And
it does sort of just offset you a little bit. It kind of like, so whoa, all right.
Yeah, I wasn't a fan because I just felt like a lot of it lost a lot of color and look. Two-Face still looked probably the best of it. And Scarecrow's redesign was badass too. Oh boy, that was great. With what's his name? Reanimator Jeffrey Combs doing the voice, which was like, oh, this is great, man. This is so cool. But I know why. It was the one episode too, because at the time, Nightfall was going on in the comic books, and this came out, after all of that had gone down in the books.
I mean, like pretty quickly after that too. So like a quick turnaround for the character. That was kind of honestly, I kind of look at that as like the golden age of Batman. I don't think anything's ever going to touch that. The '89 movie comes out, the comic stories are kind of really hitting their stride, and then here comes the animated series, and it's all just like flowing and kind of going off one another, so to speak. And I don't think that'll ever be topped.
Yeah, I guess just so comic book fans don't get mad, Nathan's not talking about the comic books, but just the presence of Batman in our culture, where Batman was so popular at that time. And yes, he did come back when the Dark Knight came back out, and you really thought it was going to be like the summer of Batman again. And to a certain extent, it kind of was, but nowhere near like the magic of '89. It's not even the same league or universe. But yeah, for the Batman and Batman Returns, the animated series, the '60s show was back in syndication on TV at the time. Video games are out.
Yeah, I think the only reason I did kind of bring up the comic books is because to me, during this time is when I really got into picking up more Batman books. So maybe the stuff that I was reading at the time was kind of like further back than I'm thinking, but to me it was new. So
I guess what I was saying is like, because I know every fan has got their favorite probably decade or time of stories. I mean, whether it be for Superman, Spider-Man, Batman, the Avengers, Daredevil, whatever the case may be. But I like with Batman, like the '70s gave him a more edgier feel with Neil Adams and Denny O'Neil. And then, of course, in the '80s when Dark Knight Returns came out and things like that. So I guess it just depends on what you like. But yeah, I completely see where you're going for in that. I look at it as probably like the biggest and most exciting time to be a Batman fan was in the early '90s, right after the movie came out, because then Batman was so accessible from action figures and video games. Comic book stores were plentiful back then, so you could see Batman or any other superhero relatively easily at the time. X-Men was on, Spider-Man was on. It was just a fun time to be a comic book fan in general. Whether you like DC or Marvel, everything was so accessible at any store. I mean, I guess to a certain extent it is now. But
I would disagree with that strictly because, man, comic books were in grocery stores, 7-Eleven.
Well, I mean, like with toys and stuff like comic books. By far, no. It's dead as far as I'm concerned in terms of like mass marketing. To be able to go to Food Line or 7-Eleven or any convenience store that you pass through in America or comic book store, specialty shops. I mean, We used to have two downtown Radford, one down from where Nathan used to live. There was
Oh,
one in Blacksburg. Then there
shout
was
out
two in
to
Blacksburg.
LT's cards, man.
Yes, which I had a lot of fun going to that
Oh
comic book
man, it
store
was
as a
so
kid.
cool. Just as like, all right, I'm walking to LT's, and my mom was just like, all right, go through there. And I still have stuff. We may have talked about this before, but when they had Batman and Judge Dredd.
Oh yeah, I remember that crossover.
I got a poster from that, which honestly, I love the art on that thing. I should probably dig it out, find it, frame it, hang it on the wall, do something with it, because that's just it's a beautiful piece of work. And then I got that huge ass Robin poster for when he got like his solo book, and I was like really excited about that at the time. But yeah, in terms of action figures, Kenner had it down, man. They really did.
Well, except for all the variants, though. Which,
well,
even as a kid, like when animated series, I'm like, I'd see all these like goofy variants, and when all the movies were coming out, it was some of the variants I didn't mind from Batman and Batman Returns. But then when Batman Forever came, I'm like, oh man, some of these variants are just, what's wrong with just having the black suit and the yellow and black emblem, and that's it. It's just all these like goofy, bright colors and stuff, and
that's Schumacher for you.
Well, the animated series had its fair share of silly, gimmicks and variants. I mean, you had plenty of the villains, but you also had tons and tons and tons of, polar attack or ice attack Batman and night, streaking Batman. And
I do like how even as kids, you and I both sort of were just like, on the variants.
Well, yeah, it's like, I hate that's how all these toy companies, like, they want Batman, but they just feel like, okay, well then just give us Batman, give us He-Man, give us Snake Eyes. Don't release it in some goofy bright colored variant because you think we're dumb enough to like, I gotta have the neon colored Batman for Christmas, Mom. And then a relative gets it for you because he likes Batman, just get him something Batman. And you get the worst variant possible, and you're like, oh, you just throw it to the side.
I mean, it's no Troll Doll Ninja Turtles on your birthday, that's for sure. Yeah, that was hilarious.
Yeah, there was no way they could market those. Where I'm like, I
wonder. You know what? Now that I think about it, I wonder if those things are actually like kind of rare or pricey.
No, it's no.
You never know.
Well, there's a bunch of turtle variants that dude. You can look them up on eBay. They're dirt cheap because they're variants like, the Farmer Mike or the Chief Leo or the Cowboy Don or the Basketball Don or the
Basketball Giraffe.
Yeah, Baskeraf or the Davy Crockett version of Raphael. I mean, just silly variants that unless you're an avid collector, no, you should have no trouble getting those. I mean, it's those first few waves of action figures and the last wave that won't get the most, and vehicles and stuff like that too. But people aren't asking for ridiculous amounts of money for the Farmer Mike and his tractor. I mean, I feel sorry for the kid that got that for his birthday or a surprise gift from his aunt or something like that. You're like, oh, this is great. Like George Kennedy, a cupcake and Naked Gun 3. You're like, you're just like, get it away from me. But Batman was no exception because I would see the commercials and I was just like, I just want Batman and the villains. I just, I hate that they always felt that we got to have tons and tons and tons of Batman, but not the one that you would want, the one that's featured in the show, not the, you never saw variants of those goofy versions of Batman showing up in the show. He never used any of that stuff. So, but anyway, but I remember when this episode aired, I remember watching the commercial for it and watching it when it came on, thinking that we're actually going to show or hoping the breaking of Batman. Like, because they go so far with it to really look like he's going to do it. And even though as a kid, I'm like, I don't know if they'll actually show him Bane's actually going to break his back. And then when you watched it, I'm like, and then no. And I was disappointed because
it's a good tease, though.
It was a good tease, and it's still the best interpretation of the character that I think we've gotten based on anything else we've got in terms of animation. And I used to wish that they would do the Nightfall storyline in an animated film, but the way DC like has done a lot of films, and after Killing Joke, like that's it. They're not getting any more of my money. I'm not being duped in anything else that DC animated does anymore.
Well, I wouldn't even say I would like just DC as a whole. Honestly,
Yeah,
like they're toast. Like they're done.
They're
They're
done. They
done.
suck, and they show no signs of getting any better with their upcoming movies or their streaming service or all this stuff. I'm like, it's maybe it's for people who just eat, sleep, and breathe DC, and that's fine. But
And I mean, there's those people out there, and if you guys enjoy that stuff, cool. But I mean, just what the fuck, man?
Yeah.
They just really dropped the ball. Like I understand we have to catch up to Marvel, but come on, man! Like
well, Marvel had to take their time. It wasn't like they just jumped right out of the gate with it. And of course, they're not careful too. I mean, they're just gonna blow up in their face. But now when people keep thinking it's all right to watch comedies instead of superhero movies, but we all know that. And I'm not treating our listeners to that same rant again.
Well, but before we go ahead and dive into this, if you guys are new, go ahead and hit subscribe and ring the bell so you get notified when a new video goes up or when we go live. And there is a link down below this time. So if you guys want to give that a click, you'll have to just scroll a bit because I think it's got like episodes at the top. Scroll down, hit play, and you guys can watch along with us. So without further ado, Tyler's he's got his chapstick on. He's ready to roll. So whenever you're ready, sir, give us a countdown and we'll get it going.
All right. 3, 2, 1, action.
This intro does not hold the same gravitas.
No, it doesn't. It's a little. I mean, even though you got a lot of like action images, it just does not have that same magic as just the solo. I mean, they obviously it's a mix of it, of the original opening and this new amalgam of various images and things like that. But it's just not as. Plus, the music it's a different. The music's fine, but it's too low key. The original Danny Elfman score, from the first 2 seasons, it just constantly sets the tone. This just kind of, it doesn't match the images. I feel like it's too downbeat.
Right.
It's heroic, but just not as exciting, and just kind of ends like. Well, I like the way it ends like that. But
it's an awesome title card right there.
It is. And I remember over the years too, like, because I feel like the '90s was like the last bit of introducing villains that were going to be staples in the mythology of superheroes. With Superman and Doomsday, you got Bane with Batman, Carnage with Spider-Man, just to name a couple of examples that are heavy hitters today. But back then, they were the new kids on the block and given a whole lot of publicity. Like for Bane, a new character comes in and breaks Batman. Doomsday comes in and kills Superman. Carnage comes in. And it's carnage. So I know some people may not look at a lot of these villains that came out in the 90s as like anything great, but they came out when I was really getting into comic books.
It was an exciting time.
It was. Plus, Bane's visual is just like
Well, I mean, you can see it right here when he got out of the plane, just like how massive he is, and showing when he gets in the vehicle that how much weight he's putting on it. That's it's a good way to establish characters. Like, come on,
just how alpha he is before he even gets into action here. That he's wearing a suit and the image, like, you don't see his face just yet, or it's not as prominent. And I love his voice.
And I love how he's wearing a suit, and we'll see later on how Killer Croc, who appears in this episode, is also wearing sort of a
trench coat and a hat and a fedora hat. Yeah,
that's the beauty of the show, and we've said it a bunch. Like, it's got a modern feel, but it also has that throwback to like
the 1930s gangster.
Yeah. Come on, DC. Like, how hard is it to make a live action version of any of this? You got it all right here. Just do it.
And
actually don't do it because you'll fuck it up.
Yeah, they'll screw it up too. It's been done perfectly with this show. So you know what? As much as we say it would be great to see, and it would be, but you know what? The people currently making the decisions for DC and Warner Brothers in terms of like animation and entertainment, don't know their head from the hole, or their ass from a hole in the ground, or however the phrase is. Point is, they don't know what they're doing, so leave it alone.
Right.
But I think introducing Bane in this way, because obviously this is not how he's brought in the comics. I don't believe, from what I can remember. It's been a while since I've read them, but this is strictly bringing Bane in a way that like with Rupert Thorne, hiring him as opposed to, Bane being or coming out and kind of doing things on his own, so to speak, in the comics. But obviously using Killer Croc, so they maintain a lot of elements from the Nightfall storyline, into what's already established in this animated universe here. And it really just it breaks your heart to feel like this show got Bane so perfectly, and that you could look at what Nolan did, which initially I thought was going to be quite good, even though I've never been a fan of Tom Hardy. And after seeing Venom recently, it just continues to hammer that idea home.
Yeah, I think that's something that we need to bring up on Beyond Retro tomorrow, real quick. We'll get your hot take on that.
Oh man,
tomorrow.
I tell you, yeah. But I just I love the voices of Bane and Killer Croc so much on this show, and this is how I like seeing all these villains being depicted. Like, a lot of times they work solo, but it's cool to see Killer Croc running a gang. He's dressed up like a gang. Even though he's still running around barefoot, but he looks like a gangster right now. I mean, a very formidable gangster. And of course, by the numbers here, Batman's on his trail here with Robin, and this is what we like to see. And I just felt like they took the main big elements of the Bane storyline and it all gets incorporated into this 22-minute episode. And it just goes to show you that. And I often wondered too that when Bane was introduced, and I don't know if the staff was like, "Hey, we should do a Bane episode," or if they were asked to do Bane because Bane was currently in the comic books at the time.
I imagine that they probably were like, "Hey, we're gonna do this."
Just because Bane was new, these guys want to celebrate the old villains. Are they interested in pushing somebody that was brought in and was given the keys to the kingdom, so to speak, to be such a dominant villain, as opposed to, like, why wouldn't the Joker be the one to do this to Batman? Not physically, but to essentially put Batman out of action permanently for quite a while, or to Mr. Freeze, or to the Riddler, or I guess, physically.
To me, I would see them like jumping at the opportunity immediately, because why not? Like, that gives you another character to work with, and this is awesome.
Yeah, it is.
It just punches through the pipe. And this is honestly probably one of my favorite parts of this episode.
And I do like, because in the comic he breaks Croc's arm, and you see his arm in a sling when he's in jail. And I just love, like, it's clearly implied that Bane broke his arm too. And again, this was a show, they didn't shy away from punches and kicks and seeing people being smacked around and stuff like that, because you can't do a Batman show where people are not being punched and stuff. And I'm glad that was never a scare when it came to doing a animated. I mean, most of the superheroes, even Spider-Man back then, like, people got punched and stuff, and it's not like we can't show that, because that was definitely wasn't always the case in cartoons. G.I. Joe did it prominently, and I think Transformers did too, and various other cartoons. But it's just, these guys got it, and it's a shame that the animation in DC releases just clearly don't have it. And I own enough of them to feel like, I don't like what I see. I don't like what I blind bought, so I'm not giving them any more of my money.
And also, this was very awesome. He beat the shit out of the Batmobile with his fists.
Just building up, like, not waiting around for Batman, but making a statement and waiting. Like, I love that about Bane. Like, a solo villain. Look at that. I like this interrogation sequence. I'll show you firsthand. It's just fun seeing our heroes tampering with the dark side with the villains, Not all of them do it, but like Batman, Wolverine, the Punisher, Daredevil won't hesitate to crack a few bones to get the answers they want. And Spider-Man will do it too, at least in my opinion. But seeing that mentality in a children's show.
Yeah, they certainly don't make them anymore like they used to. That's for
No,
sure.
because there's so much care and attention put into all these. I mean, this interrogation. I could see this in a movie. You know, everything. I mean, in a 2-hour film, I'm sure this would have been stretched out a bit more. All of this, the conversation with Croc, the fight in the sewers. You know, finding out who Bane is, like all this, like Batman finding out Project Gilgamesh. I mean, all of this is thrown in very quickly here, but you buy it. But in a movie, you know, we would see Batman doing a little detective work, finding out about what happened, and you know, a little bit more detail. And I mean, because this has to be to the point. It's for kids, especially if kids were not familiar with the comics at the time. But something that if you were reading the comics at the time, you definitely could buy into all of this with some of the changes that had to be made, of course. And it's fun having a Batman. I mean, because a lot of Batman's rogues galleries, they're not as formidable strength wise. You know, Killer Croc's up there, but with the Joker, the Penguin, the Riddler, Two Face, Mister Freeze, of course, current Mister Freeze, I think would be a little bit would be a little bit more different in that regard. But Batman doesn't have a whole lot of villains that are is physically a match for him, so to speak.
And that the Blu-ray set is coming out here in a few days.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to decide if I need it, if I want to get it in its current set or if they'll like re-release it, because once again I'm still not a fan of like the packaging and the way that they went about it. I'd rather just have them in cases like snapped in there and not like in the booklet form.
I like the booklet because that's how my Alien quadrilogy is in, and I like that form. It's pretty nice, but I probably won't get it right now because I don't know if I could afford that at once. If I could do payments, I could definitely get it, but um, I thought I was going to be able to afford it, but I'm like I may have to wait till after Christmas because sometimes I get money for Christmas. I might have to put it towards that because if I ask for it, everyone's going to ignore me. Like with the Batman 60 show, the only thing I asked for when that came out, it's the only thing I want, and nobody got it for me.
So you had to go. You had to go out
Yeah,
the next day and
the
pick it up.
next day and spent all the money I got for Christmas to get because I wanted the whole set at once. And my brother asked about it, my girlfriend at the time. I told my mom. Everybody was asking me, "Would you like that for Christmas?" And not a single person got it for me. I was like, man, worst Christmas ever.
Phil Collins playing in the background.
Yeah, with sludge McDonald's ice cream. And just seeing this detective work, you know, Robin working on his own here, and of course, we'll get caught. That's just like seeing that storyboarded, like Bane running in the shadows.
And all you see is just like his shadow and the red eyes.
Yeah, it's awesome. And Bane's look, yes, we get the joke. He looks like a luchador, but I mean, as a kid, it didn't occur to me, and it's only like comes to my attention because some people are like, he looks like a wrestler. He looks like a luchador.
Well, I thought that was honestly kind of the cool thing about him. Even as a kid, like he looks like a wrestler. I don't know. I always like that about him.
Yeah, but I mean, to me, that's the look, and I think it would have translated very well. I mean, in all honesty, too, like the Batman and Robin look, if Bane wasn't portrayed as for laughs and as like a mindless idiot, they did get the look aside from the green skin and all that stuff. But he looked like Bane would look or should look, but you know was dumbed down. I mean, they hired a guy who physically looked like Bane. It's just a shame that they wasted the character as just a mindless drone as opposed to being the cold and calculating assassin that he is. And you know, you're not going to hear me say too many positive things about Batman and Robin, but you know, it's the execution that sucked poorly. I like Candace here being like the dame, the mall for the gangsters here, and she's got her eyes on Bane and trying to coax him into taking over Rupert Thorne's empire. It's just fun. It's another like small storyline going on that she has her own agenda. Bane has his. Rupert has his.
And as we'll see, it's going to come back to bite her in the ass
Yeah,
at
as
the
well as
end.
it should.
But I like this part right here coming up where he's just like, yeah, he just breaks the fucking window right here. Like, I love that. He's just like, all right, yep, and he just throws it, and he's on his way. I enjoy the fact that he doesn't give a shit about her apartment at all.
No, she's pretty hot though because she's hanging out watching cartoons, man, and that's a beautiful woman. But yeah, it's just fun to see heroes that they don't always stop to think about people's personal belongings. It's just the hell with this. Don't even say send me the bill, and that's gotta hurt so much for Robin to have that large weight. I like that, that obviously that could easily happen, but it's not about that to Bane. Like it's the challenge. It's the he just he's not a villain that, even though obviously they're not going to do it for the show, but his reasons behind it, which means the writers make it plausible that he's not someone. And a lot of times the villains, obviously they're not going to they'll hint at finding out the secret identity, and of course they're not going to. But I like Bane's reasons behind that. It makes it believable, not just as a kind of a quick little plot device to avoid the secret identity being foiled.
Does he kind of remind you of Craven from Spider-Man in a way? Do you see a lot of similarities between the two? Or?
I mean, they're both hunters, but I would never. Honestly, you're the first one to prepare to meet your master. That's so cool. I have never thought about comparing those two, but yes, they're. Craven is strictly like a game hunter. Like he's in it for strictly the challenge of being the alpha male, whereas Bane is. I feel like there's a little bit more to his reasoning of why he does what he does. Craven comes off as like the quintessential. This is cool. This is a quick little the clothesline with the railings bending like wrestling ropes. So I thought it was just a fun little gag.
And Hurricane Rana's right here from
yeah. And it looks good. The animation is so fluid.
Yeah. There's a choke slam.
Yeah. But I like the idea of that. But I clearly think Bane would beat Craven though, without a doubt.
I think
unless Bane was not given access to the Venom, but even then,
I think it would be a cool little like crossover, like comic book, like those two against each other. Or maybe even teaming up or something. I don't know.
I could see that because they've crossed over, Spider-Man and Batman, before, and it was Joker and Carnage. But if they were to do the story where you've got two hunters, and they kind of cross paths inadvertently because they're after the same thing, I could see them pretending to team up with no real intention of helping the other because they want the right to be victorious. They want to know that they're the alpha male. They're the more dominant villain. But yeah, because in that regard, Craven's a lot like that. So much where he puts both barrels of a shotgun into his mouth and blows his brains after he thinks he's successfully taken out Spider-Man. Which is a very interesting take on the character.
Yeah,
but that's a good storyline too. If you never read Craven's Last Hunt, you need to do it. It's very, very good. The art's good in it too. But I feel like, because for some crossovers, you try to find villains that you could easily see crossing paths. But like in Superman and Spider-Man, it's Doctor Doom and Parasite instead of Lex Luthor and Doctor Doom. This is cool. Just seeing how angry Bane, and it just kicks Robin back in there. But Robin gets the fun job. He gets to wrestle a girl, she's going to slip her heels off here, make it all provocative, and then jump in on him. Like, I think I'll gladly take Robin's part right now. Like, he looks at her like, oh, man. just all all this punching and kicking that we're going to see with Batman here and Bane is just, it looks so good. Breaking it, crushing it off his head.
And they do a good job too, like when he's punching stuff to show the impact. When he's moving, to like you feel the steps and
yeah. Toys. And the music just builds and builds. He's coming. He's coming. It's just slapping Batman around. I mean, just it's refreshing to see that. This is awesome.
Here we go.
Yep.
And you're just like, oh shit, they're gonna do it.
Oh man, I was on pins and needles when I saw this as a kid. It's like, oh no.
And speaking of cool visuals,
yes, this could be argued is the most warped and nutty sequence in the animated series, period. I mean, with all the veins being shown here and just
right there.
Yeah. And the heartbeat, I mean, the blood pumping. I mean, they did not hold back for something that's going to be aired on a weekday afternoon here.
Now the truth's going to come out.
Yep. And of course, we get to see Batman looking as badass as possible.
Do you have any issues here with him being unmasked at all?
As a kid, I kind of felt like he didn't look as cool with the mask off. I'm like, he looks like just a guy. It's just kind of killed some of the mystery for me as a kid. But as an adult, I'm like, I had no problem with it at all. I mean, I have a different approach or what's the word? My viewpoint for a lot of these shows. Even the ones that I love, it's changed a little bit, but for the best, for the better. It's not like I find problems. And if anything, I appreciate more of what was changed or the direction they went in. I appreciate the things that they felt like they had to do or needed to do to make the transition to a 22-minute episode. So,
and speaking of 22 minutes, the episode's done. That was quick.
Yeah, well, that's what happens when you're watching a good episode. They fly by, and Lord knows, 1994, man. This episode is over 20 years old, man. I mean,
we're old, man.
I just never think of stuff in the 90s as being 20 years old. It feels like the 90s was like the last decade. Yeah. Just shows you like how memorable the 2000s were. Just there was. What could you say? Like, you ever think I don't think VH1's ever going to do like, I love the 2000s.
They will. Yeah. Give them time.
Ugh. But that's our Bane episode. And, just on this disc alone, like the Harley Quinn, that'd be the next one I would want to do. Or, maybe with it being October, we did not do Scarecrow, but we did do one based on a man with a mask. So it's not like we were completely out of the Halloween spirit, but we've yet to do a Scarecrow episode. We haven't done Two-Face. We did do Almost Got Him, but not a straight Two-Face episode. But like for next week, I mean, do we dare do X-Men again? Do we tackle another Batman? Do we tackle Justice League? Do we tackle Turtles again? Do we go to Spider-Man or G.I. Joe, Cops? I picked this one. Do you have any ideas or something, not a permanent, but something you wouldn't mind going and revisiting or trying for the first time? Or, we could even do, I know we plan on doing the 89 live action film.
Yeah, that'll be coming up here in a couple of weeks, actually.
Yeah. You know what? And I think in another future one, we'll have to do the Dick Tracy movie.
Okay.
Yeah, that'd be something we'd have to do in an upcoming episode. And maybe in December, we can do Batman Returns, since that does take place at Christmas. That'd be something we do for one episode. But we should definitely do Dick Tracy in the coming weeks. Batman Returns. But I don't know. I think I'll let you pick. the next one we do.
All right. I'll spin the wheel and make the deal.
Yeah.
I'll figure it out. God,
They land on coal miner's glove.
oh, so disappointing. Even as a kid, I'm like, what the
When I saw that as a kid, I'm like, I have no idea what this is supposed to mean.
Yeah, like out of everything that you had, that's
yeah.
ugh. Like I would have just taken a fucking strap match or something over that.
Anything, any gimmick was better than a coal miner's glove. I remember it was like some sort of Dusty Rhodes idea too. I think the whole coal miner's glove.
That sounds about right. Dusty had a lot of good ideas, but he also had a lot of bad ones too.
And I remember hearing the reason behind the whole idea for that, not for the Sting match, but the whole like purpose of the coal miner's glove. It was supposed to be like a glove that I guess had something in it to make almost not like brass knuckles, but it felt like if you were to punch someone, that was like the glove itself was like a much more. I don't know. I felt like there was supposed to be. I remember if it was Cornette or somebody explained the reason behind the coal miner's glove because they never explain it ever anytime it's ever brought up. So when you watch it, especially in that Jake the Snake Roberts match where old Sting does is like hit him in the leg or something, and then Jake falls over with the cobra on his face and please bite me.
Yeah. It's one of those things that it's just like, I guess, good in theory, but execution was just bad. Man, Halloween Havoc had a tendency to just any idea that they had would just go wrong. The immediate thing that comes to mind is when Hogan's supposed to do the flash paper.
Oh,
in Warrior's eyes, and it just like blows up in his hands, and the people are just laughing at him, and the match was fucking terrible. And Horace Hogan shows up, and I'm just like, oh my god, like what? Just awful.
Yeah, I remember watching that live because that was one of the pay-per-views we did get because we were both super pumped to see Warrior and Hogan again. Of all like the WCW pay-per-views that me and my brother got, they were probably some of the worst. You know, most of them were like because of who was in it. It was like, you know, Rodman and Hogan against Malone and DDP, Jay Leno and DDP against Hogan and whoever, and Warrior versus Hogan, and
that Road Wild pay-per-view was bad.
But I do remember the Jay Leno like thing that he did on his show where he's being trained by Kidman on how to do moonsaults and stuff, and it's somebody else in a Jay Leno wig, and it was
it was actually Kidman in the Jay Leno wig.
Oh, okay, it was funny though. I did enjoy that. But
what a mark.
Well, at the time, no, I have no desire to ever go back and watch any of those pay-per-views that I just mentioned there. But
now you can because I gave you access.
Yes,
to
I could if I so desired to watch Halloween Havoc with Warrior and Hogan. I could do that right now if I want.
Oh man, I remember that DDP Goldberg match actually being pretty good. For what it was, I mean, Goldberg had his limitations, and I always think back to he had him up. Like, he was going to suplex him, and then DDP rolled around, gave him a diamond cutter, and everyone's like, DDP's going to win. And honestly, I feel like he should have been the one.
I think so, too.
In hindsight, it should have ended right there because DDP was hot at the time. Goldberg was, too, but you could have put the strap on him. And
then you had a brand new feud going with those two.
Yeah.
You know? I don't know. People feel like it's such a bad idea to have two baby faces against each other. Like, why? If you book it right.
Yeah.
We'll
just have Kevin Nash win the Battle Royal, and then Scott Hall help him out, and then a week later, finger poke at Doom. It's like no wonder they
could have been at your house when you saw that.
Oh man, the finger poke, man. I was sitting there and I'm like, are you fucking kidding? Because even at that point, and you could see it in the numbers, the NWO had ran its course. Why are we bringing it back? And then after that phased out, they fucking did it again in 2000 with Bret Hart. I loved WCW, but I think when I look back on it, more than anything, I loved the undercard and the midcard, all the main event stuff. Yes, they got the mainstream people back into wrestling again, but for me, the NWO worked best 96. 97. They drug that Sting stuff out probably longer than they needed to, but I ate that up. I think that was a cool thing. It's like, is Sting here tonight? Is he going to show up? He's going to drop from the rafters? We don't know. And then he shows up at the end. He's beating the shit out of him. Siobhan's like, we're out of time. We got to go.
Yeah, we're out of time. We'll learn that Nitro.
Yeah, and that was cool, but it ran its course. They ran it into the ground.
Just like so many great things, all great things get ran into the ground
Yeah.
sometimes. They take a great idea and they just keep thinking, let's milk it, milk it, and milk it. And then when, it just ran its course for people. And no one ever takes responsibility for what. Do you ever stop and wonder why it ran its course? It's like any great idea, if you just don't, I don't know. I feel like you could really make things stretch. I mean, obviously, you want to meet the demand of the public. But,
that's why I feel like some of the best TV shows and cartoons and things that we do enjoy are some of those ones that didn't last that long.
Yeah.
Because had they gone on any longer, then it probably would have lost its luster.
Yeah, where the animation would have changed, the voice actor would have gotten changed up, or the stories would have gotten lame or more campy and silly. Plus people had more original ideas back then, and they weren't afraid to take chances on stuff. It's just like they kind of felt like action adventure cartoons were a hot commodity back in the 80s and 90s, and it's just that's not the issue anymore. It's not what they're putting towards kids, and they're saying kids clearly don't want that, but then they turn out for all the superhero movies. So I'm like, okay, well, I think there's something missing here, people. Unless they do like a really lame ass version of Ultimate Spider-Man. Oh, God, blow my brains out.
Yeah.
But
you're gonna go see that Into the Spider-Verse film or whatever that is?
No, at first I was kind of intrigued. I mean, kinda in the most kinda sense. But after seeing the last trailer for it, I'm like, oh no, not at all. I don't. This is it's a schluck fest. It's just jokes, and I did think it was kind of cool to have Peter Porker, the Spider-Ham, show up in it. But I don't like who's voicing Spider-Man. He looks like a drunk in the movie. I mean, I had no problem with Miles Morales being, but like
Spider-Man. He looks as hungover as I do.
Now you look a lot more clean and sober than Peter Parker does in that movie. I was intrigued at first by the idea, but not like by any means excited. But no, after the last trailer, it's like, no, I'm not seeing that. Not at all.
It could be better than Venom. Yeah, just give it a chance, man.
Well, I think just by watching the trailer alone, I'm like, I'm sure it's better than Venom, hands down. But it doesn't mean I'm going to enjoy it.
Yeah.
God, I mean, I cannot stress how bad that movie was. I mean.
But yeah, well, we'll get into it tomorrow.
Oh man, it was so bad. It really was.
On Beyond Retro at 2 p.m.
You really just don't think they're gonna really make it. But
I didn't think it was gonna be that bad. You know what? It exceeded my expectations.
I knew it was going to be really, really bad. Like, I mean, bad. I mean, like Ghost Rider bad. Catwoman bad. Daredevil bad.
What was it? Was it Ghost Rider bad?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Oh yeah. I mean,
I can't wait to Redbox it.
And you'll do it too. And you're like, why did I do this? Why did I waste 2 hours of my time watching this? Of watching Tom Hardy eat a lobster for jokes and funny. And it's funny because he's got a parasite in him. He just wants to eat stuff. And he's hungry. He's still hungry. He's hungry. I got a parasite, man. I'm Tom Hardy. He sucks. God, he sucks so much. He sucks in everything.
Everything?
Everything. He's not memorable in anything I've seen him in. Except Mad Max. He was good in Mad Max.
Yeah, he was.
But that's it.
Yeah. Well, I feel like that's the way with most actors. Like you gotta find something that works with them, but most of the time they just sort of get pigeonholed into something, and people like it, and it sucks. Like,
well, I feel like he probably thought his comedic take on Venom, and they all thought it was just, we're making this movie for people who've never read a comic book in their life, have never watched anything from the animated series, or don't know anything about the character other than they see it on T-shirts at your local Hot Topic, or on online or Facebook, or you go to Walmart and you see a generic Venom T-shirt. That's your audience, and that's what they made this movie for. Because there's nobody in that theater that if they knew anything about Venom, because a guy I work with told me he went to go see it too, and he was describing it to one of my coworkers, and he was like, "It sounds like you're describing a really bad sitcom," and that's exactly what it was. It was a bad sitcom. It was like, Eddie and the Parasite. to quote him, because I thought that's a great way of describing it, because that's what it was, and it shouldn't have been greenlit. It was, oh boy, it was bad.
I just sounds to me just another thing of Sony, just like we gotta get this out, we gotta
Yeah,
rush this out, we gotta do
and it
this.
shows. It shows, and that they still have the nerve to do a Black Cat Silver Sable, which I'm like, I don't think that movie would ever get off the ground anyway. And knowing that they're going to try to do another one with Carnage, which I hope will not get made.
I don't know. It made enough money, right?
It made money, yes, but
it made enough. They'll do it. It's gonna happen.
Oh boy.
Well, I mean, shit. We don't even need to talk about that tomorrow. Now you pretty much kind of just gave your review right there, more or less.
I mean, it was just a mess, and they really would throw stuff in there and just pretend like the audience. Oh, well, they're not going to remember that. They're not going to remember that either. Oh, you remember how we said he's dying? Oh, he's not really dying now. You know, it was all over the place. They were really expecting the audience just to kind of sit there and just kind of drool and get all phone face.
Oh, comic books. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh look, there's Venom. It's funny. It's funny because it's Venom and he's funny. You know, because that's what superheroes are. They're comedians, right? They tell jokes, right? They're joke makers. Yeah, they don't save anything. They just tell jokes all the time. Isn't it funny? Look at all that bad CGI. Oh, that's so funny. Tom Hardy eating a raw lobster, man. He's so funny the way he eats lobsters and keeps saying he's hungry, and he talks like he's drunk and sitting in a dumpster for 5 months.
The CG was bad as well.
Everything was.
All right, I'll ask you this: which Venom is better, Topher Grace or Tom Hardy?
Can I just hang myself instead?
You just pull a Craven, put the gun in your mouth.
Just give me the gun already. It's like, dude, you went from really bad to honestly.
Well, which one's worse though? In your humble opinion,
Tom Hardy's.
Really?
Yeah.
Shit, that's saying something right there.
Because at least with Spider-Man 3, Venom is portrayed. They're trying to.
wait.
God, it's like if I was going to be a public defender for Topher Grace's Venom, like he's guilty, Your Honor. I'm sorry.
Before you say that, it's like, even it was hard for you to muster the words. It's almost like you're just like you're about to just throw up.
Yeah, I'm gonna start dry heaving here. Right? At least their depiction of Venom was as a villain who was trying to kill Spider-Man.
Yeah, you heard it here first, everybody. Tyler thinks that Topher Grace's Venom is good. No,
I didn't.
I'm just kidding.
Don't you dare spread that. No, they're both. I hated that movie when I told Jordan because he dragged me to go see it too. I said, dude, it's gonna suck. You know it's gonna suck.
I almost walked out of that. The only reason that I stayed is because that was the first movie that I saw when they had built the new theater right there beside of the mall.
Okay.
Yeah, I was like, I'm excited to be in here. The seats and everything, like, this is awesome. Finally, stadium seating near us. We don't have to drive further away. I almost walked out, and honestly, it was during the dancing thing.
Oh God!
It was either that or when she's singing and he shows up to upstage and she like smacks him. I was like,
oh yeah.
I don't know which one came first. It was probably when he's walking down that came first, and then all right, so that happened, and I was like groaning, and then that happened. I was like, oh God, I just want to leave because this is bad. This is
I did see
really
it 1.5 times in theaters. 1.5 because the second time, the girl I was dating at the time, like you and I had just got back from the beach.
Yeah.
And she wanted to go to the drive-in just for the sake of going to the drive-in. I'm like, Spider-Man 3's playing. I'm like, oh. But what was great is that she got the mind was like, hey, let's go back and have sex instead. Let's skip the movie. And all right, let's go. So I'm like, you know what? It was a small price to pay to have to sit through Spider-Man 3 again. But, about less than halfway through, we just got up and left and went on to bigger and better things.
Yeah. Those speaking of shit that doesn't stand the test of time, those Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies do not at all.
And I know there is I remember when the Garfield films came out, like there was like a kind of a turn on those Raimi films, which I kind of feel like you guys are just now noticing this. Like I
Yeah.
know there are fans of those first two films, but I'm like I just feel like you know they're just not good films. Tobey Maguire looks like Spider-Man, but he can't be Spider-Man. He doesn't have the voice, and the story, all the villains were supposed to feel sorry for everyone. Even the Green Goblin, we're supposed to feel sorry for him at the end of the movie. Every villain we have to like, oh man, the poor guy. I just want to give Doctor Octopus a hug. Like, no, you don't do that with Spider-Man's villains. Not all. I mean, the Lizard is the first one that comes to mind. Like, it's supposed to be a sympathetic villain, which he was portrayed very well in The Amazing Spider-Man, despite what others would say about the movie. But yeah, they don't hold up. That not at all. And I think they all could have been good movies, maybe.
Well, I think any movie could have been a good movie.
Yeah, I mean, because I think Alfred Molina looked the part of Doctor Octopus. I think he could have been a great menacing version, but instead we're supposed to feel sorry for him, and he's supposed to be redeemable at the end of the movie.
Yeah, but
Willem Dafoe,
his wife died, man.
yeah. Oh man, so sad. And Green Goblin, like Willem Dafoe could have been a very, very good Green Goblin, but given bad dialogue and a goofy looking suit, it was doomed. And I loved it when it first came out. I thought this is wonderful. This is great. I've waited so long to see it, and of course, like many others, comes out on video, and we're like, oh no. It was just like Freddy versus Jason. It was like watching Daredevil. You're like, what was I thinking in theaters?
Oh, I always want to specify this again. Just
I knew the minute I said
because I want, anytime he brings up Ben Affleck's Daredevil, I want everyone to know that when this film came out, he's like, it's better than Batman '89. The masses have to know that. He has since retracted that, but it was just funny to think.
It didn't take long to retract it either, because it was one of those things when you see on home video, you're like, I don't know what I was thinking when I saw that.
Soundtrack was cool. I like the soundtrack a lot.
Soundtrack was okay, and I guess at the time, Michael Clark Duncan looked the part of Kingpin, and I think, Ben Affleck has no business playing superheroes. He really doesn't. Colin Farrell sucks at everything. Jennifer Garner looked like a very hot Elektra, but bad movie, bad dialogue. Everything was just bad about it, but I was so excited for Daredevil. I really was. I remember watching the teaser trailer, going to see Minority Report with a girl I was dating at the time. Just that's what you do. You go see bad movies to win over women. But at least when I saw Minority Report, like, at least the teaser trailer for Daredevil is attached to this. And I remember it was like almost the movie starts playing. Well, wait, where's the teaser trailer? And then there was like a jump cut, and the teaser trailer for Daredevil started playing. So I almost felt like I was getting cheated out of seeing the teaser trailer for Daredevil, going to see a movie I did not care to see, and it sucked anyway. But I was super pumped.
I've still not
we were in high school when they announced when I saw the images for Daredevil. Like, I remember going to one of the computer labs and looking up the images, like, oh man, this is gonna be so cool. You live and learn. You realize, not everything is as good when you first saw it. And you have to man up about those kind of mistakes.
I mean, there's been a lot of things too that I've seen and didn't like initially, and then gone back and have since like, you know what, I liked it. Like Hellboy comes to mind. Remember when we saw that? I was like, I fucking hated it. I didn't
hate it. I was just kind of like, just not as. My brother loved it, and I wanted to like it.
Well, I went back and watched it. I'm like, you know what? Yeah, it's pretty good now.
Yeah,
but at the time, I was like, fuck this. But yeah, Daredevil better than Batman '89. Tyler Baker.
Yeah, you keep hammering that in. It was a dark time in my life.
Well, any closing thoughts before we go ahead and wrap this up?
It's just I'd say it's definitely I would put this episode in probably the top 10 of the animated series. It wouldn't be in the top 5, but it would definitely easily be in the top 10 of the entire Batman animated series, because it's depicting a character that was given a big purpose in the comic books, and I think they depicted him very well and did it very honest. It didn't come off like they're forced. It just felt like they're going to do this. They did it right with a lot of care, precision, It's a 10 out of 10 episode. I mean, there's nothing to dislike about this episode at all.
I'm sure someone would have some
Oh,
nitpicks,
of
but
course, it's you got people who want to take nice soft serve dumps on Batman '89 because they carry that flag for the Nolan films because it was real, man. I choked up when Aaron Eckhart was like saying dawn is darkest before the dawn and all those like bad actors and no more bad cops. Like God, like I know it's a small part. Can we get a better actor to say some of these lines?
there's a lot of producers,
Oh,
families
clearly,
that
man,
need
I
bit
just
parts.
oh man, all this every actor that's doing a bit part in all the Nolan films, they oh man, it's like nails on a chalkboard. Oh, it was just so it just I'm like, am I the only one seeing this?
Well,
Oh,
I mean, you don't like that climactic. Will they blow up the other boat?
oh, with all that wonderful acting, with just you know the craft services wife, and the executive producer's second cousin's former roommate, and oh man, it's like people. It's who directed this? Like just did they let some guy's nephew direct those scenes?
Yeah.
Because oh man,
I will honestly say this, aside from Heath Ledger's performance in Dark Knight, I would honestly say that Batman Begins is probably the best of the three to me, because
yeah,
they didn't know at the time like how it was gonna do. So I feel like once that performed well and the sequels came out, that's when it sort of took that and sort of like blew it up, and it's like, oh, well, we're gonna do this and this. Like at least with Batman Begins, it does feel very basic and grounded a lot more than the other ones.
I don't know.
Maybe I'm just talking out of my ass.
No, I kind of feel like the first one is, even though they try to be real in certain parts, but I feel like they still maintain that sense of this. Look, this is a comic book. Not everything has got to be in the real world here, people.
Yeah.
Whereas with the sequels, I kind of feel like, well, with Dark Knight Rises, like all bets are off because the Dark Knight made so much money. Do whatever you want. Here's some money, Nolan. Do whatever you want.
Yeah.
With no restrictions.
Yeah.
Whereas Dark Knight, it was all about, making statements and showing how smart we are, and like, no, I just don't care. Whereas the Batman Begins, it was fun to see, Bruce training, and I did like a lot of that stuff. But again, you have a lot of just stuff. I still to this day have problems with Scarecrow. I like Cillian Murphy as Scarecrow. I thought he was great. I wanted more from Ra's al Ghul, even though at the time I thought Liam Neeson was great as Ra's al Ghul. Ra's al Ghul. I've heard it pronounced so many different ways, but there are some pros to it. I'd be stupid to say that there was absolutely nothing good in those films, even to this day. That's a little narrow-minded, but no, I just don't have that desire to go back and revisit those films. I just don't.
Because they're well-made films, but they're just not fun.
No,
and that's like the balance that you need, and I guess that's why we kind of hold these cartoons in higher regard.
Well, but and I've been going, and after Daredevil season 3 dropped, I've watched it, and I've gone back to rewatch season 1. I'm just going to watch all 3 of them back to back again in unison. And you look at that, and like you watch the fight sequences in that show, you can clearly tell what is going on in all those fights. It's not, I mean, because it's like Christopher Nolan had no idea how to shoot a fight sequence. It's just a jumble mess of edit, jump cut, edit, jump cut. It was just a mess of like, what is going on here? And it doesn't flow. It doesn't look cool. And you watch that, and like they're doing all this stuff in camera. It was just like they're well choreographed. You got great music. And the tone is consistent. There's very little humor even throughout Daredevil. All 3 seasons, you've got such great moments. Of course, granted, too, they have a lot of time to spread out and stretch out characters. So I can't knock the movies.
That's why I think for the most part now, this stuff works better in like a...
For the most part, it works better.
Yeah, in a way where you don't have the restrictions of cable TV and networks. Like with Netflix, you can say shit and fuck or whatever you want, really, and keep it like if that's what the character needs, and the character, if it so I think it works better in just an episodic form like that, and not.
And I think if we were to get, I mean, I know DC's doing the whole streaming thing, but you know what? If you're going to do another Batman, I kind of feel like, you know what? Maybe that's what they need to do to kickstart the streaming service. Not Teen Titans, but a new Batman. A Batman where you have time to really build up the world, and you don't have to do the whole how he became Batman thing. It's not really an interest of mine. I
mean, at this point, I feel like with the main characters, that anytime we're doing anything new going forward, we don't need origin stories anymore. We've seen it time and time and time and time again. Just jump into some randomness, and well,
that's what makes Batman '89 that much great too. Is that he's already been Batman, but he's been Batman for a brief time. Like the word is getting around that there's a bat in Gotham City, but people don't know what it is. So you almost feel like Michael Keaton has been doing it for real long, to the point where they don't know what he is. They don't know if he's human or not. So you just kind of jumping in after he's just kind of gotten started. Like that's what I kind of feel like that's a good jumping point. And I think it would give a lot of time to build up the crime lords of Gotham with having Two-Face established, or Black Mask and Joker coming into the mix, Catwoman. I mean, you'd have so much time to develop a back and forth love story between Batman and Catwoman, with the gangs and crime was fighting over control of Gotham, and Joker just decides to come in and just blow it all up just for fun, and that's what makes Daredevil. God, it's.
I need to watch season 3. The main hiccup there is Emily hasn't watched any of it yet.
All the more reason to go just start from the beginning and rewatch season 1, because it's flying by for me, and it's like I'm watching season 1 with new eyes again. Like it blew my mind when I first saw it. Now I feel like I'm seeing something even more better this time around.
Yeah, I'm thinking either that or just wait until she goes to sleep and I'll just start it.
Which should be any moment now.
Yeah, probably. Her narcolepsy will kick in. There we go.
Yes. But it's definitely worth revisiting. And when I'm watching that, I'm like, oh, man, why can't the Marvel stuff be like this? Like, it's serious. It's not blood and guts, but you know what? People are getting beaten up, broken bones.
And there is humor in it, but it's just very like
it's very, very it's like a small sprinkle over 13 episodes. The tone is consistent, and you grow to care and like these characters, even to the point where like you feel sorry for Kingpin at times, but he's a douchebag. There's nothing likable about it. He has his moments, but that's what makes it fun and interesting. But this guy's a real prick. That this guy is just going to do. He's going to, he's a bad dude, and I like that about it, though.
Yeah.
But I can't wait till I wrap this one up and start season 2 again and rewatch that because that was the definitive version of the Punisher. We will not get any unless Punisher season 2 decides, oh, you know what, we really screwed the pooch with talking about post traumatic stress for 13 episodes, and let's give the people what they want, an actual show where the Punisher punishes.
Because I didn't go and watch Punisher because honestly I've only watched the 2 seasons of Daredevil and just like a couple episodes of the other shows. I'm just like, they didn't really hold my attention the way Daredevil did. So and it's starting to show, and it's getting kind of weird because they canceled Luke Cage, they canceled Iron Fist.
Mm-hmm. They were not as well received for the most part. But
do you think this is also a thing where, since Disney is starting their streaming service and all the Marvel stuff is going to be like all the Marvel movies will be going to that instead of Netflix going forward when that gets started? Do you think this is sort of a power play move of like, well, these things are going to transition there as well? Or do you think those will stay on Netflix?
I remember Netflix had released a statement saying that they had no plans to cancel Daredevil or Jessica Jones. Like, those were the two they said that as of right now they plan to continue on with those. They're not officially greenlit for next seasons, but obviously Daredevil season 3 clearly is what's coming for the 4th season if it does get greenlit. I watched a video recently where they were saying that there wasn't much buzz for Daredevil season 3, and I also, if you want to say, I blame it on the fact that it just kind of came out of nowhere. Like, I don't recall, like when season 2 came out and they were having the Punisher and Elektra in it, it was all over the place. It was just in Daredevil's in the suit, Kingpin's back. I mean, it was just like you could. It was so everyone was aware of that.
Right.
Whereas this one, it just kind of felt like it just kind of came out of nowhere. And oh, here's season 3 comes out next month. It wasn't a whole lot of, because when you watch it, you know, it really sets up the good stuff for what season 4 could be about. This is the season 3. I think is the most character driven and psychologically driven of the seasons that we've got. It's great. It's fantastic, but it's different from the other 2, but in a different perspective. Like it's still great. I mean, it's like, wow, this is really good, but different from the other 2. But I just kind of feel like that. I almost feel like they didn't release a whole lot to kind of get it hyped up. It kind of almost felt like to me it was under the radar. Maybe it's just because I just didn't see enough about it for it to really generate a whole lot of buzz. But you know, I really hope we at least get one more season, and then after that, they don't want to greenlight another one. Fine, but I kind of feel like we should get one last season to send it off with 4 straight seasons of what you would want from a Daredevil show, and we have yet to get. What we're left with is like we have to finish it off with that. So, but yeah, it just makes me wish that more stuff was like the Daredevil show. Really, I mean, even though I can't argue three great seasons, you can't argue with what we got. So I just wish that more superhero stuff was treated with more dignity and respect instead of, you know, let's get some more lighthearted humor in here because the audience is going to get bored if they don't have something to laugh at.
I like when I imagine people come into this like they do every week. It's like, well, they got the commentary, but we gave you a whole hell of a lot more too.
Yeah,
I like it.
It's never the intention. It's just kind of what happens naturally.
Well, and part of me is just poking the bear. It's just like, oh, hey, you saw Venom, huh? Tell me all about it. Did it suck? Yeah.
God, it's not fun being mad at all this stuff. It's
really
but not.
I mean, that's your kind of your gimmick now to the masses. Like, well, he's angry a lot. He doesn't like things.
And it's not like I'm like 50 years old. It's like it was better back in my day. I'm like, I just don't like the way people make movies anymore.
Yeah, but it's almost kind of like that gap. Like I've said before, man, like even people 10 years younger than us, it just seems like a complete generational gap.
Well, obviously there are but I also feel like, you know what? Not everybody looks at movies and cartoons and TV shows the way I do. Like I'm looking for things that most people, that's not the interest of theirs because it's just entertainment and that's nothing more. But to me, it's grown, it's resonated more with me. There are certain reasons why certain Arnold films and Van Damme films and Stallone films and superhero films resonate with me even today because of these reasons. And when I find that kind of storytelling and choreography is lacking in these films, and like, yes, I'm going to call it out because I felt like you can do better. A lot of them could do better, you know. But when something like Guardians of the Galaxy comes along and they put all that humor into it and they realize, well, hey, this was a hit and we just did a lot of jokes.
Yeah,
maybe this could work with all the other Marvel movies. And
yeah, then that's kind of the bummer. Like with Guardians, yes, it works and pertains to that. Same thing with Deadpool. Like, yes, it works and pertains to that character. It's not going to work for everybody, but
no, you can't have that in Infinity War, and that's what it was. It was It was just. You saw it, and we don't need to go down that path again. But it's just another.
We need not bring up Infinity War nor Steven Seagal.
I got no problem talking about Steven Seagal.
No, I'm just saying it's like you have that as kind of like your hot button thing. Joe has Seagal. Do I even? I guess common sense would be like my hot button thing. I was thinking about that while I was showering. I was just like thinking about shit in the news and thinking about like shit I've heard people at work say, and I'm just sitting. I'm like, where's the common sense? And
I kind of feel like that's lacking in a lot of stuff, though. I mean, from movies and stuff, like there's no common sense here. Everything is just throw stuff out there, and they'll love it. It'd be great.
Yeah, and meanwhile, we're just sitting there like, God damn you, which is a tease for our episode tomorrow. Pumpkinhead and Rawhead Rex. Tyler, I know you're excited about Rawhead Rex. I can feel it. I'm gonna
force myself to watch it tonight at some point.
Yeah, I'm gonna watch it tonight as well.
What makes it even more? It's like Joe hasn't even seen the movie in like 30-some years. Like,
well, hey,
I hope I remember it.
No, I provided that. I sent you guys that YouTube link.
I know you did, but it was just one of those things where like
Joe's here right now. So Joe, you better refresh yourself, sir. I
Yeah.
don't want any of this.
I
Well,
don't want to carry this episode of the podcast.
I remember when I rented it from the fish store,
and I don't remember anything else.
I mean, I'm just waiting for something to pop up over there in the chat now because he was the only one that said anything this time
turned up. Man,
no, we got a couple people in here, but
okay.
Joe's the only one typing in the chat, which with this show honestly doesn't really. I've said it before. We've talked about it. Like that's a thing that
doesn't warrant having people listen to us live.
We don't have to have people here live. I mean, we encourage it. It's always cool. But yeah, I guess we should go ahead and wrap this thing up. Yeah. But Joe, thanks for popping in and joining us. Any of you guys that are new to the channel, make sure that you hit subscribe and ring the bell so you get notified when we go live. Check the links down below, beyondretropodcast.com. It will take you to Pop Culture Network's page for our show. We do that every Sunday at 2 p.m. Eastern. So if you guys want to join us live, we always got a handful of guys in there chatting up, talking about either the topics that we're discussing on the show, or sometimes they're just sort of conversing amongst themselves and laughing at Tyler along the way. Yeah. Check out our Facebook page. Give that a like. That way you get all the updates for any of the stuff that you may have missed. Check out Podbean. Got a link down there if you want to go ahead and give everything a download. Take us on the road. Trying to think of just some of the other stuff. I mean, we got Joe's Custom Creations. If you want to hit him up for a custom action figure, check out his t-shirts. He's got some designs up there. I think that other than the iTunes thing, if you want to find us on there, just a keyword, Pop Culture Network. That'll give you access to Capes, Commentaries, Beyond Retro, and Fans of Power, the dedicated He-Man, the Master of the Universe podcast, hosted by this buff dude here and the guy that's been lurking in the chat for the last half hour, Joe Amato. Anything else that you got?
Pretty much covered it, man.
Yeah. Don't feel as strong about that outro. I think it's because
by this point we're how many episodes in and people don't quite understand at this point. Then
if you don't get that, sometimes I flub it up and I'm hungover when we do these things because I kind of woke up with a little bit of a headache because I had to work an extra hour last night, so I got home later, and I'm like, well, I need to stay up later, and I slept less and drank a little more, so
it's really imbalanced. I mean, he really comes off like Tom Hardy in Venom.
Yeah, just been sitting in a dumpster all night.
Yeah,
was that really a gag?
No, that's just kind of
that was just your description.
That's how he looked and acted in the movie.
Okay,
it was like someone who'd been drunk, sitting in a dumpster for 5 months, with nothing coherent to say, just acted like almost like he just saw Johnny Depp in Pirates of the Caribbean. He's really kind of all over the place and weird. That's what Venom needs. That's what I'm going to do. And that's what we got. Number one comedy in America. Go see Venom today, people.
Man, well, I guess with that, we will see you guys next time on Capes and Commentaries.
Later.